Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are following a broadcast signal on its incredible high-speed journey, from a quiet studio all the way to the radio or TV that's right there in front of you.
Now, this is part 33 in a much larger series on modern broadcast transmission. But hey, don't worry, today's explainer completely stands on its own. We're going to trace the path of a single broadcast, from the second it's created to the moment it flies through the air. It's a pretty wild question when you stop and think about it, right? How does that happen seemingly in an instant? Well, it's this amazing process that blends raw brute force power with some incredible digital precision. So let's dive in. Okay, so the sound or the video that you enjoy, it starts its life in a nice, comfortable city studio. But before it can get to you, it has to travel to a place that looks like this, a transmitter site, usually stuck way out on a remote hill. Our story today follows that signal on its high-speed adventure, and we're going to start right at the beginning, its creation. So before any signal can even think about being broadcast, it needs to be carefully crafted. And this isn't just about, hitting play on a song. It's about creating a station's signature sound, the thing that makes it pop and stand out when you're spinning the dial.
This whole multi-stage process is exactly what makes a professional station sound so polished and clean. First up, automatic gain control keeps the volume consistent so you're not always lunging for the volume knob. Then multi-band compression steps in to balance everything out for perfect clarity. And finally, you've got peak limiting and clipping, which are kind of like the gatekeepers. They maximize the loudness without letting any of that nasty distortion through. It really is a science.
Okay, so our signal is now polished, it's ready, and it's sounding great. But now it has to face its next big challenge, getting from that downtown studio all the way out to that remote transmitter site we just saw. So like we said, the studio and the transmitter are almost never in the same place. The studio is downtown where the people are, but the transmitter, it needs to be up high, way up, to get the best possible coverage. And that means you need a special, high-speed connection to bridge all those miles.
For decades, broadcasters relied on these dedicated microwave dish links. And they are rock solid, but they need a perfectly clear, straight line of sight between 2 points. Today, a lot of them have switched to something called Audio over IP, or AOIP. This basically means they're sending broadcast-quality audio over a computer network, a lot like the internet. It's way more flexible and, a lot easier on the budget.
Now you might be thinking, wouldn't sending audio over a network cause a delay? But the speed is just incredible. We're talking about a latency of less than 5 milliseconds. That is literally faster than you can blink. It's so fast that even an on-air host listening to their own signal can't hear any delay at all.
All right, our signal has made it across the bridge. It's arrived safe and sound at the transmitter site. This is the powerhouse. This is where the real magic of broadcasting truly happens, turning a simple little audio signal into a powerful radio wave.
The key process here is something called modulation, and the best way to think of it is like this. Your audio is a letter, and the radio wave is the envelope. Modulation is just the process of neatly folding that letter and putting it inside the envelope so it can be mailed right through the air.
And there are a few different ways to, stuff the envelope. For AM radio, you vary the amplitude. That's the strength of the wave. For FM, you vary the frequency, which is exactly why it's so resistant to static and sounds so good. And then you have modern digital broadcasts. They use really complex schemes, like one called OFDM, that basically chops the signal into thousands of tiny pieces to cram in tons of data for that HD quality.
For decades, this whole thing was powered by these massive, glowing vacuum tubes. They were hugely inefficient. Most of the electricity they used was just wasted as heat. Not to mention they were high maintenance and needed dangerously high voltages just to run.
But now, everything has changed. Modern transmitters are all solid state, and they can be completely controlled and monitored from a simple web browser, from anywhere on the planet. For a broadcast engineer, that is a total game changer. So our signal is modulated, it's amplified to full power. There is just one final critical step, launching it into the airwaves. And that is the job of the antenna. I guarantee you've seen towers like these driving around, those really tall, skinny ones. That's your typical AM tower, where the tower is the antenna. The more complex ones with all the stuff hanging off them, those are for FM and TV. They operate at much higher frequencies and need totally different designs. Their shape is dictated by nothing more than pure physics. And once they're launched, these signals travel in completely different ways. AM signals can actually follow the curve of the Earth and even bounce off the atmosphere at night, which lets them travel for hundreds and hundreds of miles. But FM and TV signals,
They travel in a straight line of sight. And that's exactly why it is so important to get those antennas as high up as humanly possible.
Okay, so now let's talk about how this entire process, from the studio all the way to the antenna, has been completely turned on its head by a field you probably wouldn't expect: information technology.
These days, a modern transmitter site honestly looks and feels more like a data center. Everything is connected with standard computer networking cables. All the management is done through web pages. They plug right into the same monitoring systems that corporate IT departments use. And get this, just like high-end computer servers, they have hot swappable parts, so you can do repairs without ever having to go off the air.
And the impact of all this new tech is just staggering. One case study showed that by upgrading from an old tube transmitter to a new solid-state one, they cut their energy costs by 42%. Why? Well, solid-state tech is just vastly more efficient. It turns more electricity into signal and a lot less into wasted heat. I mean, that is a massive saving.
In fact, this savings on electricity and maintenance parts were so huge that the brand new, super efficient transmitter paid for itself in just over 4 years. That doesn't just make it a technical upgrade, it makes it a really, really smart financial decision. And there you have it. We've followed the entire journey, from a sound created in a studio, processed and zipped across an IP link, modulated and amplified to incredible power, and finally launched as a wave through the air. You can see it right here. The worlds of old-school broadcasting and modern IT have truly, finally merged into one.
You know, the source material for this explainer puts it perfectly. The fundamental goal, getting a signal from here to there, from the studio to the listener, that hasn't changed a bit. But the tools we use to do it, they are now smarter, way more efficient, and more reliable than anyone could have ever imagined. And all of this leaves us with a fascinating final thought. As literally everything moves over to IP, to the internet, will we even need these iconic broadcast towers on the hill in the future? It's a huge question, and it's one that really makes you wonder what the next chapter of this incredible journey is going to look like.